Hey, what's up guys and welcome back. I got this idea some time ago guys, so yeah, thanks for the idea. And here it is. Part 1 of What If Naruto Was. The Lion Sin of Pride. So yes, he's going to be Escanor in this What If. I don't think I ever done a What If that is focused on 7 deadly sins and their abilities. So let's start out with the one that is known as the invincible one, shall we? What if Naruto was the Lion Sin of Pride, Escanor? Part 1 guys. If you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice, I indeed have 3 more channels that I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. All the links will be down in the description, so go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And don't forget to go ahead and check out the other What Ifs over the other channels. I hope you guys enjoy each and every one of them. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode? Let us begin now guys. It was horrible. Everything was still in chaos. The nine-tailed fox had just ravished the entire village, bringing many down to their knees, wiping out many. The village was still in a form of disarray and chaos. Many had lost hope. Watching their loved ones fall in front of their eyes was never a good sight to behold. Yes, it was truly horrible. Hiruzen Sarutobi was holding the corpse of Kushina Uzumaki. The last thing that she told him was the boy's name. Glancing up towards the Anvu, Hiruzen noticed a strange look situated in the Anvu eyes. Wait, how did he notice that? As Hiruzen realized it was a bright light coming from the baby boy that was shining on the mask that the Anvu was wearing. Before the man could do anything, the child lifted off, ascending into the heavens, shocking everyone there as they were mixed with confusion and awe. The baby boy who had just been brought into this world and had so many taken away from him started to glow, a bright golden light. Every single citizen of Konoha gazed up towards the heavens when they saw it. As the child stood there, his body surrounded by this bright light, his body took the form of a miniature sun. The overwhelming light spread over the entire hidden leaf, and for a moment, night became day, darkness became light. Everyone who just felt the sting of depression creeping into their heart at the loss of their loved ones felt this feeling. They felt hope despite their loss. The sensation pouring from that light that washed over all of them. Yes, they felt hope as all of them gazed up, not really focusing on what they just lost, but they were all focusing on that ball of energy that was just resonating through the heavens. They all knew, despite not knowing what it was, they knew that it meant them no harm, as it washed over them, illuminating every single thing within the village, just for a moment. The next moment though, the child started to fall. Luckily, Hiruzen Sarutobi was much faster, as he caught the boy in his arms. He landed gently on the ground, a confused look written all over his face. As he looked and focused on the boy, the child seemed to be oblivious of what he just did, as he was just looking at him. The old man was confused, not quite understanding just what the hell was that. Time skip. It was a peaceful day within The hidden leaf. It has been 80 years since the village was ravished by the nine-tailed beasts. But throughout this time, things are looking up. A lot had healed. The village had rebuilt. So things were looking up. In one of the many dense forests of the hidden leaf sat a young boy who did not match his age at all. He was 8 years old, and yet he looked like he was 13 or 14. He was a tall boy for his age, possessing spiky blonde hair that spiked outwards, two bangs running down at the side of his face, crystal blue eyes. He was dressed in a white t-shirt that was a bit loose, brown shorts, and nothing on his feet, as he was seated on a large rock, gazing out toward the scenery in front of him, while both of his hands were on the rather massive stone that he sat on. Slowly but surely, his hands start to go in, deeper and deeper and deeper. The palm of his hands were glowing a bright orange, as they were melting stone. As he was pushing down, when suddenly he stopped, turning his head to the right. 3 shurikens were aimed directly toward his skull. However, he grabbed them. Yes, he grabbed the deadly weapons that could end a man's life. He simply grabbed them before crushing them in his palm, as they did not release anything because they were melted into nothingness. The boy got up, looking around, something whipping past his vision, to the left and to the right. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of him. Judging by his stature, he would say that he was a male. All of his features were covered up except for his eyes, which were dark. Behind the boy, 2 others landed. The one in front seemed to be the leader. "Take him, now," he said. Upon saying that, the 2 dashed forward at immense speed. They tried to grab said boy, as one of them reached for the dagger that was on his waist, with the intention of ending the boy's life. Unfortunately though, the child was able to move faster and grab the man's arm. His eyes widened as with surprising strength, the child stuffed his feet in the ground and twirled, slamming him into his partner, throwing the both of them to the side as they crashed. However, they recovered rather quickly. He then turned his gaze back to the one that gave the order. "Is this an assassination attempt?" he spoke. Even for a child, his voice sounded a bit too manly for his age, as he looked rather unpleased by the weak attempt. However, the one that was giving the orders did not listen to the child. "What the hell are you two doing? Kill him now!" They couldn't afford to use any jutsus. They did not want to give away their position. After all, they were within the hidden leaf. But they did have a job to do. A job that was paying so much. Returning back to their feet, the both of them thrust forward. The both of them holding on to their weapons. They tried to trick him with their speed as he rushed in. The leader smirked when he saw the both of them impaling the boy. However, he soon come to realize that he was wrong. Because of the angle, he thought that the child had gotten stabbed, but that was not it entirely. The child was able to grab both of the weapons at the same time, as his hands start to melt through the actual steel. "Of all the time you choose to attack me, it's when we're almost at noon. I do not feel anger for your assassination attempt. All I feel for you people is pity." Upon saying that, he buried his fist into the one that stood in front of him. The man's eyes went wide as blood burst out of his nose and mouth. He was launched, his body hitting the forest like a cannonball, tearing through several trees. "Because choosing to attack me at noon is one of the worst mistakes you can ever make. And now, I will show you why that your attempt was foolish. I shall teach you properly. The other guy behind him spun, pulling out a duplicate blade that was in his robes, as his intention was to slash the child, and he moved his arm fast. However, the sun started to peek out beyond the clouds. The blade that he slashed down with barely even left a scratch. He stood there with a mortified look on his face. And that is why all I feel for you is pity. The child said before he slammed his head right into the man's skull. The man's eyes immediately went wide as he crumbled. Now, to deal with the child blinked in confusion as he watched the one that gave orders slash his own man's throat before sending 3 kunais into the other one. It was a tactic of not getting caught because these two knew who he was and he couldn't afford for them to say anything. Damn fools, unable to kill a damn child. With that, he unsheathed the katana that was strapped to his back. Guess I'll have to finish it, he said, as he was not willing to carry them and risk getting caught. He dashed forward at speeds that was fit for someone of his stature. However, his problem was believing that this child was just an ordinary child. With speeds, he shot forward as he slashed the boy 4 times. As he came to a stop, he placed his sword behind him as he was about to sheath it. Now it's over, he said, without even looking back, believing that he had got what he needed to done and it was time that he left. Ah, you seem to be stronger than your friends. The man felt his heart stop for a moment. No, that's not possible. Because your hits kind of tickle, unlike theirs. He turned around as the child was standing there. The slashes that he thought that he did to carve into the boy's skin to remove him piece by piece was just lines on the child's skin, not even breaking completely through. His body started shaking, shock and fear as he took a step back. Why show fear now? Hadn't you realized from the beginning that your chance of succeeding was something I pity you for? The boy proceeded to step forward. Now, let me show you why. It was a mistake of yours to attack me during the peak of the sun. The boy's clothing started to stretch. Now it showed why his shirt was rather baggy, because his muscles started to enlarge. He started to literally grow in size. As the sunlight peered down on him, it was noon. I shall release you from your embarrassment. The man jumped away, as his action was to run away. A pity, the boy said, that you believe distance will save you now. Slashing sun, he said, as he slashed his hand down in a cutting motion. A wave of golden energy shot outwards. The man turned as his eyes went wide as he saw the thing tearing through the ground. He screamed out as his body was burned and sliced apart. Right there and then, the child walked over towards his body and looked down at his corpse. And that is why I am the one. Naruto Namikaze, he said. His attack caused a lot of commotion as several people started to flash to the area. Immediately, the place was swarmed by envoys. One in particular as she rushed up towards him. You're late, he said to her. She looked around. Despite the situation, you did well for yourself. He looked at her with a strange look. You speak as if one could best me in this time, he said. His body still oozing with that energy as it slowly started to dissipate, as he was making sure that she or the others were not harmed. She wasn't surprised by this response. She knew him rather well. Naruto Namikaze, or as he called himself, the Invincible One. Time skip. Hiruzen and Sir Toby had just have a long conversation with Naruto and then the council. First of all, Naruto Namikaze was the son of Minato and Kushina Uzumaki, that child that had turned night into day on the day that he was brought into this world. However, everyone knows that he's Minato's son, and Hiruzen was to blame for that. Upon bringing Naruto back, upon seeing him, upon finding out that he controlled the beast inside of him, there was many people that were brought to the council room. Those that were there were the upper level district's members of the village, who controlled many of the shopping malls and things within the village. Normally they wouldn't be attending the meeting, but it was his fault the information got out about the boy and where the Nine-Tails was. What followed was those people demanding the child's death, calling him a monster, saying this and that. Hiruzen was sick to his stomach. Their words angered him. After just watching the demise of Minato and Kushina, after losing his wife, and everything they gave for the village, and everything that his wife gave as well, to be there to help Kushina despite knowing the risks, he lost his cool. Normally that wouldn't happen, but tonight was such a stressful night, as he lost the love of his life, and so much more. He shouted at them. In his anger, he let it spill about who the boy was. The moment he said it, the moment he realized, there was too much of them there, and many of them were shocked. At first they did not believe him. However, they asked themselves, why would he lie about something like that? Looking at the boy, blonde hair and blue eyes, as all of them felt sympathy, guilt. Hiruzen wanted to confide the information, but someone let it leak. He had made sure to get each and every one of them, to have a sit down with them, to try to find out who it was, but he was very thorough, and none of them confessed. However, he had a sneaking suspicion that Danzo was the one that leaked the information. Reasons were beyond him, as he didn't see what Danzo would benefit from that. However, it did help. A lot of the animosity, a lot of the hate was washed away, as Hiruzen stood on the podium, now confessing to them that the boy's father, Minato Namikaze, wanted him to be seen as a hero. However, while the villagers might see him as one, well, not all of them. Some were still caught up in their grief. Outside forces came after the child on several occasions. This was not the first assassination attempt. There had been over 20 plus. Each time the envoys were there to protect the child. Hiruzen found it best that the child started to train and learn how to harness and control this unusual ability of his. From the moment Hiruzen started to see him grow, he knew something was not right. The child grew extraordinarily fast in a physical way. He was the tallest 8-year-old boy that Hiruzen had ever saw. One thing though, Naruto had pride. Too much pride. A bit too much most times. But he was not above talking to others when he was in need. But that rarely ever happens. However, he did have someone that was watching over him and caring for him. She was actually close to his mother. Kushina Uzumaki was a fantastic Kinjutsu member, just like majority of her clan was, as they specialized in Fuinjutsu and Kinjutsu. She taught Yujiro Uzuki, as Yujiro, who had lost her parents at a young age, came to see Kushina as a sort of a mother figure who was there for her. On the night that she lost her, it was bad. She even wanted to adopt Naruto, but she was too young. That would be a strain for them both. But he made sure the child was well taken care of. Outside forces came to help. Daimyos, friends, in high places that knew Minato rather well. They came and lent their support. Naruto was rather well known all around the elemental nation. However, the moment the news broke about him, there was a bounty placed on his head. He was the youngest child to ever have a bounty placed on him, when he couldn't even speak proper sentences yet. and that was bad. However, Naruto loved to wander off most times, not staying in the confined help of his, help, because he felt it not needed, believing that he was far superior to anyone that would come after him. However, they realized that his strength seemed to tie to the very sun itself, given his intense heat that resonated from his core. When the sun reached its peak, his strength would rise to at least a Jonin level. Yes, the moment it reached an absolute peak, the power that was inside of him was at a level that was truly extraordinary. However, midday or late in the night, he wasn't as strong. Not to say that he was weak, because of his pride, Naruto constantly trained to make up for that weakness. However, this strange source of energy that he possessed, it had nothing to do with chakra, which was odd. So in the night, he mostly relied on his chakra, which he was training how to master and control. However, within the day, he became a force of the sun itself, as he called himself invincible. As his power was just growing over time, he was just 8 and yet he was already this powerful. At first, it was a strange energy that was a problem. Just being too close to him would literally start to melt everything around, even metal. When the clock struck noon, he wasn't able to control that power, and that was an insult to his pride that he could not. Therefore, he worked hard, incredibly so, on how to control himself, and now he was able to hold back that enormous amount of heat. His personality was also affected by the sunrise as well. While he was still a bit prideful, he was not nowhere close to what he was during the day. At night he was more calm and more relaxed, but during the day it seemed like he was a completely different person. And he was also trying to make up for his shortcomings by making sure he would be just as powerful within the night. There has been no one that was able to tell him what exactly this energy was, as no one could understand it. At the moment, Naruto was not attending the academy. For special circumstances, there are special teachers and people that were there to train and tutor special circumstances, and Naruto was one of them. There were many that were even offering him citizenship in their own village or their own country in order to learn and train with their own. However, there were certain drawbacks to this, because they wanted him to take their daughter hand in marriage. Hiruzen didn't want to force anything on him. While Minato was feared by most, he was also known by most, and everyone could see that this boy was something incredibly special. It seems like the power fluctuation that had been Konoha at the top was once again rising to new heights. Minato Namikaze, Hoshirama Senju, those were 2 names out of the current 4 that had made many fear Konoha because of the strength they wield. Hiruzen Sarutobi was nothing to scoff at either, but in his old age he has turned rather docile, and he seeks peace most of the time, people believing that he's lost majority of his strength, which was not the case. And Naruto, he was upsetting the power balance. For someone to be so young and yet already wield such power, there was rumors going around. Some of them were crazy, but majority of them were rather truthful. That is why Naruto wasn't even attending the academy. His life was in constant danger, and given that he was going to be a shinobi, there was only a matter of time before he started to set out on the road. And that bounty that was on his head, it was constantly going up and up and up. With each failure, the bounty kept on increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing. So out of everyone else within the village, he was in the most danger. While some believed that it was bias, after looking deep into the situation, they realized that the child life was a constant struggle. Well, not to him really, but to the forces around him that were trying to keep him safe. Time skip. Deep underground was Danzo Shamura. His envoys, Root to be more precise, had been watching the encounter of Naruto Namikaze and his oppressors. Danzo was fully aware on who they were. Just another trying to claim the bounty that was put on the boy's head. Danzo deliberately allowed them to get in the village, giving them a time frame, because Danzo wanted to see the capability of the boy. Yes, he wanted to see just how much he has grown. At first, Danzo was the one to release information on said boy, about who exactly he was, releasing to the populace about him being Minato's son. At first, it was just a way for him to use what happened against their oppressors and their foes out there. With that information spread, many of their enemies would be focusing on the child. He was fully aware that Hiruzen was going to keep him safe. And while that was going on, his root ninjas would be getting to work to securing the future of the Hidden Leaf, to make sure that the nation will never fall, despite their loss. Once again, they lost a great deal during the Uchiha massacre, but that was something that he concocted. Something that he allowed to happen because they were going to turn against him. However, his interest never left the young boy. Time after time again, Danzo had gotten information after having his people spy on this boy. Danzo always had to keep his gaze on someone that showed great potential, and this child was showing great potential ever since he was born. And the more time that passed, the more he grew, as Danzo had a steady gaze on him, watching his potential and plotting for the future. That is one of the reasons why he allowed these buffoons to attack the child in midday, knowing that is when his power is at its greatest, because he just wanted to see just how much it has grown. Time skip. 2 years flew by rather quickly. At the moment, something extraordinary was taking place, as Naruto was holding a battle axe in his hand. The hilt was black. There was a circular stump running from the bottom towards the midsection with spikes on it. The blade itself was silver and massive as well, as the thing was golden going down. At the moment, Naruto's body was surging with energy, as he seemed to be burning up. Standing there was the Sannin Jiraiya and Yujiro Uzuki, as the both of them watch. Jiraiya's eyes widened in surprise as he saw something extraordinary happening. That axe was very special, forged by the finest metal that could be found within the elemental nation. As stated before, many people wanted to be on Naruto's good side, expecting greatness from him in the future. Hearing about one of his father's close friend that was a weaponsmith, the man had gotten the finest, the greatest metal that was on the elemental nation, and forged what Naruto wanted. Normal blades did not suit Naruto rather well, as he ended up always shattering them. But this axe, Jiraiya had infused it with Fuinjutsu. The seal on it were supposed to release a lot of the energy building up within Naruto through it. However, there was a chance that it might burn out. Something extraordinary happened though, as the axe seemed to crack. However, this was a spiderweb crack as it ran through the blade and ran through the sides. The seals and Naruto's strange ability, they combined into something rather and truly abnormal, as the both of them had to cover their eyes when the bright light emerged. When the light died down as Naruto held the battle axe, with a confident smirk on his face as he looked it over, he held his hand up, pointing towards the woods, as he then brought it down. What followed shocked the Sannin and Yujiro. As the ground was split, several trees were crushed in the process. It seems like Naruto overdid it a bit. However, it was midday, so his power was surging. Jiraiya and Yujiro made their way towards him. What happened? The Sannin axe, as he was expecting the blade to shatter, given the amount of power that Naruto was coursing through it. However, not just the handle but the blade of the axe stood firm. Yes, he was surprised by that. What happened was, the greatest weapon has been brought into reality. The holy divine axe, Rita, said Naruto, as he gave his weapon a name. Both Sanin and Yujiro looking at him. Time skip. For the other students going through the academy, many of them heard about Naruto Namikaze, the son of Minato Namikaze. Some of them were rather jealous that he was getting all special treatments, and he didn't have to sit through Aruka boring lessons. Sasuke Uchiha did not like this either, given that he recently lost everyone that he ever loved. He expected to be the one to get all the attention, for people to be flocking to his side to train him. Yes, there has been several people that came to pay their respect, having good ties with the Uchiha. However, many people and the Uchihas never got along. Naruto on the other hand, his father had made friends far and wide. His mother was mostly confined in the village because of what she contained, and her seal was far different from the one that Naruto possessed. Even then, some doubt that the fox influence would take over Naruto, given how prideful he was to let something like that happen. It might sound like a joke, but the child was very prideful. He had just turned 12 years old, and it was soon time for him to embark on missions. The title of Genin would not suit someone like him. Despite he was not strong as he was in the night, because of his constant training, helped greatly by Yujiro Uzuki, someone that saw him as a younger brother. While he lost majority of that godly power in the night, his ninja skills and chakra more than made up for it. Yujiro Uzuki was a rather hard trainer because she realized the great downfall in his abilities. For someone to attack him at night, he wouldn't be able to defend himself. Therefore, she insists on making sure that he was able to prepare himself at night time. As she had a lot of friends, especially in Anvu, therefore, Naruto received training from all over. More time passed, the stronger he was becoming, and it seems that his mysterious divine energy, as he called it, that belonged to him because he was the one, was continuously growing, time after time after time after time again. Time skip. Naruto was now 13 years old. Finally, he will be starting doing missions outside the village. It was nighttime though. Naruto sat on the top of his roof, looking at the moon. His parents' house had been destroyed during the attack. However, it was rebuilt, and this is where he resides. Yujiro was over here most times, as well as her boyfriend Hayate. However, majority of the time she was on missions away from the village. She was an Anvu after all, without the sun. His attitude and personality had calmed down a lot. However, that didn't mean that he wasn't Naruto Namikaze, the one who would think highly of himself. However, he needed to get stronger, chakra-wise. He had a lot to live up to. His father was a Hokage, a legend, a man that faced thousands and did not blink, ending thousands, bringing victory to Konoha after the Hidden Stone sent 1,000 men to take down the Hidden Leaf. When they realized that his father wiped them all away, it made them realize if one man could do that, why bother continuing this war? So yes, Naruto had a lot to live up to, as many were expecting a lot from him. So that was a big part of his triggering attitude, in terms of him thinking so highly of himself than most in the day. While most of his time consists of him doing nothing but training hard, he had friends. He had friends with a lot of nobility people. People that was in rather high places. A lot of them were adults, but he was also friends with their kids. However, Naruto did not like the way things were set. It seems like all of their friendship and ties were just because of some political standpoint. Nothing really genuine. However, if it came down to it, he would fight to protect them because he could list off a few that actually just want to be friends. Not because of his stature and the background that he came from. Yes, there was a few, as a beautiful maiden came to mind. Naruto lay on the roof as he sat there, thinking about several things on his mind at once. Most of it consists of his training and things that he could do to grow his strength as he was. His strange divine energy that coursed through his form even now, but not as strong. He could not train that, he just had to control it. However, it was continuously growing, and his power was only getting greater. Closing his eyes, Naruto dived deep within that part of his mind. Jiraiya, his godfather, had tried to teach him how to harness the power of the beast. However, it didn't feel right. To him as he was now, it didn't feel right to use and enslave a creature that he knew nothing about, especially if the creature seek death and destruction for him and his people. Why further antagonize it? And for him in the day, well, he didn't want to rely on anyone else's power but his. As Naruto found himself deep within the recesses of his mind, as he arrived to see the massive bars, as usual, you do know that the standard human lives for around 80 plus years. And me being half Uzumaki after what I was told about my people and my clan, that is now long since deceased. I'm going to live beyond that because of my genes. Therefore, you're going to be stuck with me for a very long time. This time can be much easier on you and I, as long as you tell me what happened on that night, and why did you choose to destroy Konoha? Dark red eyes start to be seen behind the cage. Time and time again, you come and ask this stupid idiotic question, believing in your mind that there was another reason than me just enjoying wiping out your pathetic kind. What can I say? I believe you're lying to me. From the moment we first spoke, you've been trying to push me away, so I won't be able to see what was truly going on. I believe there is something here that we're not all seeing. You're a being of intelligence, a being of understanding, and yet the world see you as a ferocious, vicious beast. Majority of them believing that you can't even talk, but yet here we are trading words. There must be a reason why there is so much about you is unknown, because there is things that you don't want others to know about. The fox growled at him, but Naruto did not even flinch in the slightest. He was well used to it by now. And so what if I can talk, he said. Should that make me dislike your kind even less? Should that make me wanting to exterminate every single last human be less just because I possess intelligence? Kurama said, gazing down towards the boy. Of course not. I was told about my mother, and that she was a Jinchuriki before me. I was also told by my godfather that the seal does weaken during childbirth. The fox smirked. So that's it. That is why you're trying to find some reason. You're trying to not blame yourself for what happened to your parents and what happened to this village. The numerous of people that I ripped to shreds with my bare hands, he said, showing his teeth down towards that Naruto. You might think so, but no, that's not it. My father was a seal master. He was able to seal you inside of me. At the cost of his life, yes, but if my father was there, and if my mother is everything that everyone has told me about her, I doubted that you would have been able to escape, even if my mother was giving birth to me. So tell me, did something happen that night? Something that no one else knows about? Kurama was watching Naruto carefully. In the day, he might seem like an overconfident, self-obsessive human, but it was times like this that his intelligence truly came out. Whenever he got on a subject, he became obsessive. Unlike with the boy's mother, the other seal was powerful and kept him from experiencing or hearing anything. But this one was different. He was able to experience and see some of the outside world. He could feel the emotion swirling in the boy in front of him. The other seal prevented him from doing anything. While this seal is more powerful, the other seal was much larger. There was something special contained in the entire village, wrapping around. Not to mention, she was just like the other one. Their bodies produced special chakra that clashed against his. But this boy, he was just half. However, Kurama himself was not fully aware of what the power that swirled into the boy's system. Whatever it was incredibly hot. From what he felt, it felt like flames that could not be quenched by anything. Nothing at all. However, Kurama did not trust this boy, nor did he trust anyone else. After all that has happened to him, he turned away. I suppose that is it for tonight. You're done talking, said Naruto. Kurama refused to respond, as Naruto left, fully aware of what that meant. Time skip. Naruto stood on training ground 24. There was a lot of trees around. As he was situated in the center, he was just standing there. A man ahead of him with light brown hair flashed through quick hand signs. As he brought his hand down, the ground around Naruto broke open as many wooden vines emerged. They wrapped around him, trying to restrain him. The man that was performing this feat was known as Tenzo. As he stood there watching the boy, his hand locked in a special hand sign to keep the child restrained. However, Naruto didn't seem bothered at all. In fact, he didn't seem to show any concern, not in the slightest, as he stood there. If this is all the strength that you can muster, your efforts are wasted, said Naruto. As he started to move, the wood started to creak as Naruto started to exert pressure. Slowly but surely, they started to break. Tenzo applied more chakra as he tried to restrain the child. One even wrapped around his neck, two pulling him down to the ground by his arms. Applying more pressure, Naruto slammed down on the ground, his knees hitting the ground, his arms being held down as his hair was shadowing his face. Tenzo spoke in a confident tone. I guess I went too much there. I will take it easy next time, he said. But it seemed like this round ends in my victory. You seem confused, Naruto said. Confused, Tenzo asked. Yes, you're under the understanding that somehow your wooden vines have securely bind me. Well, given the Tenzo was cut off as Naruto erupted out of them. Tenzo stepped back in surprise. So the rumors were no joke, he thought to himself. Well then, he said, let's kick it up a notch, shall we? Running through hand sign, he slammed his hand on the ground. Wood style, emerging force. A massive force started to rush towards Naruto. Holding his hand out, a small orb started to appear in his palm as it levitated above it. Miniature sun, he said. The attack shot forward and hit the forest. Yamato's eyes went wide as a massive wooden dome arrived around his body, protecting him from the onslaught as everything was blown apart. The force burning everything in sight and an explosion shooting outwards. Upon the smoke and dust clearing away, Yamato was nowhere to be seen. Behind Naruto, similar wooden vines were shooting towards him. With the advanced to incapacitate, however, he held his hand to the sky. His divine axe flew directly into his palm as Naruto turned and slashed. The force from his slash completely obliterated everything that was behind him. Yamato jumping away just in time, as his eyes were still wide with shock, looking at the destruction that a 13-year-old boy could cause. They were not alone though. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura, Koharu and Homura were all there watching the spectacle perform right in front of them. It had been decided some time ago that Naruto could not be placed on a team. Any team that he would be placed on, it would be greatly unbalanced. Given his age, he was supposed to be a genin, but there was no team that could fit his compatibility. Even at night, because of the constant training to make sure he make up for his shortcomings. Even at night while his power was dormant and not releasing as a sun, his ninja skills more than made up for it. Having people like Yujiro in his life that constantly help him improve and evolve. He was far above the genin level, even at night. Yes, his skills were immense. And during the day, as the time went on, all of them came to the same agreement. There has been no other child that was born with such a magnitude of power. Kakashi Hatake, Minato Namikaze, Itachi Uchiha. The names of prodigies, but none of them could compare with the power this child possessed. That is why he had to be a special case. As they all stood there discussing what they were going to do proceeding forward, the final say led towards the Hokage side though. The child is clearly too much to be placed on a team with just genins. There has been no student in the academy to ever reach such levels throughout the history of Konoha. Homura said as he stood there. Yes, he's right. Danzo stepped in. I say we release the boy right now. There is no use for that. We are not in a war, Hiruzen said. There is no need to rush in or push children to be something that they're not ready for yet. Looking towards him, it is clear that the boy's strengths elevate during the day. However, from his rapid growth, even at night while his body doesn't produce that strange energy that is coursing through him, he's still rather powerful. I have to say I agree with Danzo on this one. Koharu spoke up. Allowing the boy to sit back as a genin would simply be wasting a lot of his time. And this boy possessed too much potential to be wasted. As a brief quiet was spanned between them as they watched the collision between Naruto and Tenzo. When Hiruzen spoke up, even though I want Naruto to be around those his own age as well. As you all can see, he has certain aspects about his personality that I'm sure you're fully all aware of. Isolating him from others would only make that grow. That is why I think I have an idea that would be well suitable, Hiruzen said. As he gazed out towards the field, watching the interaction, Danzo Shimura was quiet. Because of the boy's popularity and his skills and strength, Danzo had ideas that were plotting through his head at the moment as he watched the battle in front of him unfold. Time skip. A month has passed since Naruto was placed under the tutelage of Yamato. Yes, after being reassigned, he was given the name Yamato. There wasn't much that he could teach Day Naruto, but as for Night Naruto, Yamato had a lot of expertise and a lot of knowledge that he could pass on. And this was being done for Naruto to gain experience. And Yamato was no joking manner, as they were fully confident that, imposed of a threat, Yamato would be to subdue said threat, not to mention Naruto as well. However, with his powers not being as great as they are in the day, when it is nighttime, Yamato was there to teach Naruto in that regard. It might seem ironic, but Naruto had a fire nature. Over the past month, Yamato taught him a lot. Yamato was happy to be placed in this position, knowing that this boy was going to be something truly great in the upcoming future, and he was going to be part of that. After 1 month of training Naruto to see his limits, without his additional boosts, Yamato was confident enough to start to take Naruto on outside missions. Their first mission was a simple escort mission, which wasn't much. However, their second mission was something a bit more difficult. At the moment, Sasuke Uchiha was not doing so well as he stood on the bridge. Sasuke was covered in needles as he held a shuriken in his right hand and a kunai in his left. Alongside him was a boy known as Sai, possessing dark hair but a pale complexion, black clothing as he had a short tanto in his hand. Both Sasuke and Sai were currently facing a rather deadly opponent who was using the reflection light of the mirror to move at insane speeds. Sasuke had recently acquired his Sharingan, but even that, his body was not as fast as his eyes. On the outside, Sakura was worried about her teammates, but she had to stay by Tazuna's side. He was the bridge builder that they were protecting. They had came here with the solution to get Tazuna back home, but it turns out that he lied. But they decided to go along with the mission anyways. Upon going along with said missions, things rather escalated as they faced the Demon Brothers, which wasn't that bad. Sasuke was someone who had put in a lot of work to reach where he was. Especially because of Naruto's recent popularity, Sasuke wasn't a fan, and he wanted to prove that he was just as strong as the Namikaze. So yes, and Sai was a very special boy as well. He possessed a rather powerful art as he was able to use ink in his ninja art in fighting style. So yes, however, Haku was immensely fast. This was Haku's greatest technique, the demonic ice mirrors. He was moving at immense speed to the point where Sasuke believed that he was moving beyond the speed of sound. The both of them had each other back rather well, despite the rise in conflict that has been going on within Team 7. Sai wanted to make friends, it seems, but he had a real hard time expressing that. Yes, he had a really difficult time expressing that because of his lack of control over his emotions. His background was a mystery to most. Realizing that if they were going to come out of this, they were going to need to work together, Sai looked towards Sasuke, and Sasuke already had an idea, but he needed help to pull it off. "This is over," Haku said, materializing in the mirror all around them. They were both surrounded as Sai held his tanto out. "I will make your deaths quick and painful. There's no need to worry about last longing agony." Senbons appear in both of his hands. That is when everything came to a stop. A burning sensation could be felt. It felt like a wave of heat descending upon the bridge. Over to the other side, Zabuza and Kakashi Hatake clashed their blades together when the both of them jumped away. Zabuza looked down as the floor started to move and shot wooden planks towards him. He sliced one, but the other one threw him across. "Are we too late?" Yamato said as he appeared. Kakashi's mood seemed to rather lighten up. "Oh hey there, Tenso. Well, if I must say, you're right on time." Kakashi glanced over his shoulder. "The name is Yamato now," Yamato said, standing there. "Alright, Tenso," Kakashi said, just to piss him off. There was a running gag between the two. Zabuza was not liking the odds. However, that sensation was not coming from this one. It was Yamato that saw the expression on his face, as majority of the bandage had been tore off that hid away his features. You're probably wondering, just who is that, aren't you? Well, for your sake, you should take your comrade and flee immediately. Otherwise, they will die, Yamato said without a hint of hesitation. Zabuza actually started to sweat. Despite the cold sensation in the air, it was quickly becoming rather humid and hot. Meanwhile, Tazuna was trembling and unable to move. So was Sakura as they felt the sensation creep up on them. "There's nothing to worry about. I am here to get rid of the enemy." As Sakura turned when she saw him, she'd never actually spoken to him before, but She did see him already. What was his name again? Oh yeah, Naruto, she said. He looked towards her as he was slowly passing by. Release your stress. This fight is about to be over, he said to her. Who is that? Tazuna asks. I don't know him personally, but I heard that he's the strongest genin ever. Tazuna looked towards him. He's like you guys, he said, confused. What do you mean? He looks way older. Yeah, you're right. But I think he's around our age. I think, Sakura said, as Naruto arrived in front of the massive mirrors that were suspended all around. He simply started to walk. The more he walked, the more he allowed his essence to be released. What is this? Haku said, as he slowly watched his mirrors they were melting. That's not possible. With the amount of chakra he had running through them, this shouldn't be possible, he thought. As he watched his mirrors melting, Naruto did not stop. He simply kept on walking and walking. His body melted through the mirrors as it dissipated. The others up above, they also started to melt as well as he fully stepped inside, resting his massive axe on his shoulder. His gaze swept towards Sasuke, then it swept over towards Sai. You both can rest now, he said, holding the axe on his shoulder. I will handle the rest. Haku looked at the newcomer. He looked to be around 16, from what he could see. Spiky blonde hair with two bangs coming down the side of his face. He was rather muscular and tall, much taller than the other two. He was wearing a black and gold shirt. It was black with long sleeves that show off how it squeezed around his muscles, and gold trimmings where the button were supposed to be. However, it was not buttoned all the way up, exposing some of his chest. He was wearing black pants and sandals on his feet as he stood there. What are you doing here? Sasuke said. My team was sent here as a relief team. So as I said, stand down, I will handle the rest. Your team. Where are the others? Sai asked. It is just me and my sensei, but there's nothing to worry about. This battle is already over. Yes, you're right about that, Haku said. As Haku came out of the mirror, throwing senbons directly towards Naruto's neck to incapacitate him. However, Naruto brought his hand up and simply slapped them away, shocking everyone. Enough playing around with your toys. Toys? Haku said in confusion. How did he just... They were supposed to pierce his hand. Flashing back into his mirror, he started to jump from one to another. I'll give you this. You are indeed fast, but when you're facing someone like me, your speed means absolutely nothing. So try as you might, your speed will not help you here. Divine Slash, Naruto said, as he brought the axe forward and down. Boom! Everyone came to a stop. Zabuza was not doing so well. He should have heeded the warning and ran away, but his pride wouldn't allow him to do so. Something was thrown with a violent force, as Zabuza and his group that was standing there stopped as they saw what it was. Zabuza stood there shocked, as the top half of Haku lay on the bridge, motionless. The bottom half nowhere to be seen. His mask gone. His right arm was missing. He was dead. As Naruto slowly made his way, axe on his shoulder, Zabuza started to feel things as he looked into those cold dead eyes. Things that he wasn't supposed to feel because Haku was always supposed to be a tool. But looking at Haku dead on the ground, his emotions started to swirl. Emotions that he tried to bury, but they got the better of him. As Haku Killer was calmly walking, Zabuza split past Yamato and Kakashi, the both of them shocked by his speed. because he was angry, pushing everything into his legs. He appeared in front of Naruto before blitzing behind him. His intention to get revenge by splitting Naruto straight down the middle. However, boom! Naruto raised his axe above his head, and Zabuza's blade connected with it with critical force. The problem was, with the amount of pressure that Zabuza brought down, something broke. And it was not Naruto's blade. Zabuza, massive cleaver split in half, the other piece flipping into the ocean. However, that gave Zabuza an opening. As he slipped the blade forward, because it shattered, the trajectory was turned as he drove it into Naruto's shoulder with incredible force. That is when blood started drip down, feeding Zabuza's blade as Naruto was stabbed. Zabuza was confused though. It did not go as far as he thought, given the incredible amount of force that he used. "You should be proud of yourself," said Naruto. "You're the only one that has ever managed to wound me this much. It's a shame that you weren't able to live past this moment. Perhaps you would have been able to grow your strength and give me a better fight." Confused by his words, Zabuza saw Naruto's right finger. His pointing finger pointed right towards his chest. "Divine Spear, Naruto," he said, adding his name to his own technique. Thrusting his pointer finger out, Zabuza spat blood, soaking his bandage. His heart, as he looked down, as his chest was caved in. The attack that Naruto used from a single pointer finger had enough force to directly target his heart. The force that even came through his back, while his skin and body had not been ruptured open. It was enough to damage him severely. As the blood flowing through his body stopped, his heart started to violently spew blood in his chest, not going anywhere where they were supposed to be going. Zabuza dropped down to his knees. Was this it? Was this how he died? He thought to himself as he collapsed. Despite the distance between them, he could see Haku's dead cold eyes looking at him as he felt his heart slowly shutting down. "A pity. Your strength was great, but it was a shame you had to fight someone like me," said Naruto, as he walked away, leaving Zabuza on the ground as the man proceeded to die right there and then. Making his way as Naruto paused. "Hatake," he said, "it's good to see you again." "Ah, Naruto, you seem to be doing well." "Yes, that I am. It seems we have company though." Turning their gaze, they saw it was Gato. However, he wasn't alone, as the others behind them started to make their way. With Haku dead, Kazuna's eyes went wide as he saw Inieri and Tsunami held by one of Gato's men. They had went to the house and no one was there. And now the two of them were gagged and tied as Gato stepped forward with a smirk. "It seems I was right to arrive here and bring a few friends. After all, look at that pathetic excuse of a demon." "Demon my ass," Gato said. However, Yamato slammed his hand on the ground. Before anyone could do anything, both of them were covered by a wooden plank, like a coffin, as it pulled them underneath the bridge and then pulled them upwards. Both of them were frazzled as they stood there shocked. "They're safe." It was Yamato that spoke to Tazuna, who hugged the both of them, fearful of their life a moment ago, believing that he would lose them. "I will hand you the remainder of these lowlifes," said Naruto. He held his hand out, and this time, a rather larger one formed in his hand. Everyone felt the intense heat resonating from it. It looked like a miniature sun. Naruto did not speak or give them any time to speak. He simply launched a technique without hesitation. As they tried to run, but the blinding sensation went off as the thing erupted. That section of the bridge was also swallowed as well, completely reducing it to nothing. Iron and board and stone, everything was gone. As was all of the bodies as well. They weren't just hit, they were destroyed. Every single cell and molecule. They were burned into nothingness. As Naruto had used a bit more power because his body was overflowing with energy. After all, it was midday. Everyone stood there except for Yamato and Kakashi, with a shocked look on their face. As I said earlier, there was nothing to worry about. Because I am here, said Naruto. But guys, we end episode right here. If you want to see the next part, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification so you posted. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace.